In this lecture, we're going to do a drawing exercise, and the aim of it is to bring together many of the tools and techniques that you've learned so far, but bring them together in one drawing. The idea is that this exercise reinforces the flow of tools from start to finish, and we're going to use our steel bracket again as our drawing. This is the drawing we've created. This is the drawing that we want to create, and we're going to start with a brand new blank file. File, New, starting with a blank document. Click OK. And here's our blank document. Let's set up our page to suit our drawing. File on the menu bar, Page Setup. Click on the Printer Setup button, and then we'll set up our page. I'm going to use my printer, and I'm going to set my page to A3. So click on that pop-up menu, choose the page size that you want, and I want this to be a landscape. Click OK. And OK again. So there's my page set up. Next thing is to set up my drawing units. File on the menu bar, Document Settings, and Units. I want to use inches for this because it's a small project. The area will be square feet, volume cubic yards. If using metric, of course, set this up to be millimeters or centimeters or meters, whatever your preference is. We're going to show the unit mark, and we're going to have fractional only with 1/8 of an inch as our precision. So the fractional precision here is as you're drawing. How accurate do you want to be when you're creating the objects? This is how accurate do you want your dimensions to appear. So we could set those to 1/4 of an inch. Click OK. Right click. Active Layer Scale. Just check we're 1:1 scale. Now we're going to go up to Tools on the menu bar. Smart Cursor Settings. We're going to set up our grid. I like a grid of about 4 inches. We could show the grid if you want. And I'm just going to go to Object, check those, and my smart points. Acquire the smart point if the mouse stops for half a second. And if we need the datum, we can use the G key. Okay, now it's time to create our rectangle. Double click on a rectangle tool, and this is 95 millimeters by 45 millimeters, and you notice you can type in mm and put those in. So it needs to be 3 3/4 by 1 3/4 inches. Doesn't matter which of these we choose, but I'm going to choose the top left because we're using position at next click. So I'm going to click, and that's going to locate my rectangle. Around about there. Might seem strange to start off a rectangle when we want to create that bracket, but this is the quickest way to draw. I'm going to use my split tool, use it in the third mode, click, come down at 30 degrees, click, that's the side to keep. And an easy way to put that line back on there is to come down in your Object Info palette and just say that it's closed, and that will just close that polygon for you. We're going to fillet the edges, and the fillet radius is about 1/4 of an inch, 6 millimeters. Click, click. So that's a very quick way of putting those rounded corners on. Back to the second mode, because what I'd like to do is to select these 2 lines off the end here and convert those from a solid line to a line type so that they look dashed. Now to put in my circles. I'm going to use my circle tool, double click. We're going to put in a circle of 1/2 an inch. So a radius of 1/4 of an inch, and then click OK. I want to find this corner here, the intersection of those two, hit the G key. Now just zoom in to do that again because I need that point there, and I need to find where those two intersect. Then hit the G key right there, and then tab, so this is 1/2 an inch, 0.5, tab, 0.5, and then click once here, and that should place my circle at the right point. Let's go up to here, we'll do the same thing again. It doesn't matter which of these modes we're using, but you do have to double click on your circle tool here. So it's exactly the same settings, so touch that point, make sure you got the little red square, touch that point, find the intersection of those two, hit the G key, tab, tab, 0.5, tab, minus 0.5, so it comes down, and then click. So I've got my 2 circles. Now I need to try a slightly different method. I need my snapping palette. Window in the menu bar, palettes and snapping. There's my snapping palette, and I need this one here, the Smart Edge. If you double click, you'll see your Smart Edge settings, and I need a snap to offset 12mm or 0.5 of an inch, and this will allow me to come along this edge here, and it'll pick up that edge as a Smart Edge. Let's just go back to our settings and check. So you can see here, acquire the edge, so turn that on, acquire the edge if the mouse follows the edge for half a second, or we can use the T key. So you can either turn it on or not and use the T key. I sometimes find that it's easier to use the T key to manually set rather than acquiring the edge. You might accidentally run along an edge which is the wrong one. Okay, so we touch this edge here, we hit the T key, and that should then acquire that edge, and you can see it there, the dashed line going out. And if I move away from that about 12mm, you'll see I get an offset, half an inch. That's 12mm or half an inch offset from that edge. What about this edge? Touch the edge, hit the T key, and you can see my dashed line running through it. So come away half an inch, there's an offset there. Follow that offset all the way up till you get the other one as well. So it's offset, offset, both of them. Click, 0.25, enter once, enter again, so that's a half inch circle there. Now we're going to want to project this edge here, and we want to project the edge that's furthest out here. Now the easiest way to find that is to draw a line from the center of that arc out to here, and it's that intersection there that's important. So I'll just draw a line down there. And then select that and get rid of it. So let's just zoom back out. There we are. Now we can draw the front elevation. So I'm going to start with the rectangle tool, touch this point here, come down, click. We're going to go tab, tab, and this is 10mm thick or 0.4 of an inch. Enter, and now I can touch that line there, click. That line's done its job, so I can now go back to my selection tool, select that line and delete it. Touch that point there, come down to my bracket, click, and click. I can use my offset tool this time. Offset and offset by point. So click to start, click on the edge of that circle, click to start, click on the edge of that circle, click to start, click on the edge of that circle. And we're done. It would have been easier if I'd selected that first line and changed its line style to a dashed line first, but I can always do it later. Click, click, and I want a line at 45 degrees up here. Now I need to draw some guidelines across here to help me draw my elevation. So I'm drawing a couple of guidelines across there like that, and then I need some guidelines down. These guidelines that I've drawn, I'm going to select them holding down the Alt or the Option key. Select them all like that. These lines are really guides. So modify, guides, I can make them into guides. Making them into guides gives me the ability to hide them when I don't want to see them and bring them back when I need them. Let's have a rectangle, touch that point there, come across, click, touch that top edge there, across to my other guide, click. I'm going to get my selection tool and I'm going to select that line there. I'm going to offset that line again, offset, and you might be surprised to find how I'm going to do this. So touch that point there, come across until I hit that guideline, and that's the right location for it. Click, click again, touch that point there, and find the intersection with my guideline. Click. Notice that we're not seeing our holes, our dotted lines. Right click, send, send to back. Now you can see them. So let's select that line. I didn't create guidelines for drawing the holes, but if you'd prefer to create guidelines, you certainly can. Select both of those. So remember, back to the selection tool, select both of those, modify, guides, and make guides. So let's try that again with that line there. We're going to go to our offset tool, click, touch that point, click, click, touch that point there, and you can see it's exactly the same whether you've got the guidelines or not. What I'd like to show you is that you can actually draw this with only one guideline. So let's hide all those and I'll draw my 45-degree line. I'll also use my selection tool and I'll get rid of those lines there. So how do you draw it with only one guideline? Touch that point, come across, and you'll find that you can get to that point there. Hit the G key, and it gives us a datum. So we can touch that point, we line up with the datum, click to start the rectangle. Touch that point there, gives us a guideline going across, a smart point. Touch that point up there, come across, find the intersection with that guideline, hit the G key again, and then come down, and there it is there. So you can see you can draw this without all those guidelines. I'm just going to delete those, so back to my selection tool, delete that, and delete that. Turn my guides back on. So now it's just a matter of dimensioning and annotating your work.